Hi there, Frank George here. As a doctor, I know a thing or two about probing. Indeed I do. I love something that's easy to install, easy to use, and backed by a real support team. And that's why I choose TH3D Easy ABL Kit for my 3D printers. I prefer not to waste countless hours trying to figure out how to connect things to my machine when I could be printing instead. With the TH3D Easy ABL, you get technical support, easy to use firmware, quality parts, amazing accuracy, and there's no moving parts. What are you waiting for? Head over to their site at easyabl.th3dstudio.com and get one today. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy printing. The Easy ABL kit is meant for 3D printer usage only, not for medical or rectal use.
What's up, everybody? It's hump day. We got our live stream today. As we do. I also have a whiteboard now. We're fancy here. I'm trying to keep tabs so I see it. We use a task management system here, but sometimes I just need to walk in and see my list of stuff, and that's only some of the things. But hopefully I'll be using it in some videos and stuff too. But anyways, how much did I pay for that ad? I think it was like 50 bucks or something. That guy does videos on Fiverr. It's hilarious. I still love it. I roll it out sometimes. I have it in a like a scene on OBS here. So our tangent today will kind of be like throughout the stream, probably more towards the end. And what I was doing is I was actually working on the KP3S. It was sitting underneath. It was sitting underneath my bench here, and it was a decent little machine, but dear God, these fans, these stock fans on here, these guys here, the layer fan and the actual cold end heatsink fan here, they're just so loud. So someone actually designed a 5015 fan mount. What is this sitting on? Oh, it's sitting on the power cable. And they had, this is the bracket they originally designed, and the holes actually don't line up. And it's for an Easy ABL. It's listed as an Easy ABL, but it's meant to bolt onto the screws that the carriage uses for the linear rails. And it wasn't lining up very well. It also put the probe too high. So like if you are designing mounts for our sensors, you got to take into consideration like where your threads are and how far they're going to be. So if you look here, if I line this up to where the holes are, it's going to put it right here. You're barely going to catch any threads with the nut. So I actually designed my own bracket in Fusion here to go along with this fan duct. So this is just a 5015 fan duct that someone made. It bolts onto the stock location. Now you can use the stock 30mm fan, but they also included a little adapter to put a 40 on here. So this is our 24 volt 40mm fan that we sell, which is a lot quieter than the stock one, and this will still keep it plenty cool. And then the bracket. So this is like version 1 of the bracket, and this bolts onto linear rails. You can see here I've got a cutout for 2 of the 4 screws, so we're only going to use 2 longer M3 screws, and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the version 2 I made of it, which brings it a little closer to the stepper, just so we get the offset as low as we can, especially since this is a smaller bed. But it's really simple. So I just put 2 M3 screws here. I think these are M3 by 20, I want to say. I'm going to put together a little package with the STL files for this, with the fan duct and the bracket I designed here. And you can see it's pretty sturdy even out here on the sensor. It will flex a little, but it's going to keep the sensor where it needs to be and keep it rigid enough. So yeah, just a little thing I whipped up in Fusion, just a little bracket with the probe holder. And that just bolts onto the 4 screws that go into the block here. And I just used 2 larger screws, and these cutouts are so the stock screws just kind of fit in here. So, and this shouldn't affect the structural rigidity or anything of the actual carriage assembly, because we still got 2 screws that are just going right into the block and not being used for the probe mount. So that's my little side project here, because I do want to get this printer added into the farm. I also printed the LCD relocation bracket. So on this printer by default, the LCD is like this and it's flat, so it's really hard to see. But Marlin doesn't actually currently support the vertical screen alignment very well. So this moves it up and puts it into a sideways version. So it makes it a lot more usable. And this will make it quieter. It'll be better cooling than the stock layer fan, because you can also see it's got dual ducts there. And I'm going to see, even though this is like a V5 style block, I think the V6 socks we carry should fit over there, because the Kingren KP3 has the same block. It's like a V5 style block. And the V6 socks sit on it. They're just a little big in one of the directions, but everything else lines up and they stay put. So that's what I'm actually using on my KP3, which is up there on the shelf right by my, right there, right at the tip of my finger. That's where my KP3 is. So anyways, yeah, that's what we'll talk about this, and we'll actually work on this printer towards the end of the stream, and get some stuff done on here. So I don't know how many of you guys have the KP3S, but you know, this is a nice little machine, and I'm looking forward to trying it out. I was also toying with the idea of replacing this with a pancake stepper. The only thing is, pancakes don't usually do too well with these type of non-geared extruders. So I'm probably just going to leave it. I'm not overly concerned with the weight on the hot end. That's the least of my worries with this machine anyways. So yeah, it'll be a little side project towards the end of the stream. But let's get into the chat here. Let's see who we got. Let's see who is popping in, and let's see what questions there are that I can try to answer for you guys. So let's see. I just got to shuffle my screens around here and pop my chat out. All right, so right before the stream, Max CJ joined the Call to TH3D. Make sure you connect your Discord account so you get access to the VIP section. That's usually where you can find me online. I don't do Twitter or Facebook or any of those other ones. I just hang out in Discord in our server. So let's see. But thanks for joining. We got also TJ, Kyle, Dale Scott, Justin's here. So is Jonathan Barnes. Let's see. Any other regulars? I try to call out the regular people, like Michael Cassell. He's a regular here. He did exclamation point treat. I don't have the treat dispenser set up for the dogs yet. I haven't had time to work on that yet. Let's see. TJ does have a question here. He says, I'm going to put Unified 2 on my CR10 V2, but I have installed linear rails and a remote Titan and a V6. Will I be able to change the thermistor to number 5 while compiling? Yes. So that one you can change your thermistor specifically for the number 5 one, which is what E3D uses for their V6s. You can either just uncomment the V6 hot end option in the firmware, and that will set thermistor value number 5 for your hot end. Or you can just use, there's an option called known thermistor value in our firmware. So you uncomment the known thermistor value line instead of the other ones that control thermistor settings, and then there's a little X in place of the number of the thermistor. So you uncomment the known thermistor line, and then you change the X to whatever number in Marlin the thermistor you're using is, and then you would compile. So it's very simple. Let's see. Oh no! How did I miss my big mouth there? Only got a little on my shirt. It's all good. At least it doesn't get sticky when you spill it on yourself. Ah. Who is calling me? I don't know who's calling me, but they apparently didn't want to wait for it. Let's see here. We got a question from a guy named Jay. Oh, I also see Victor here. Victor's a regular. But Jay's asking, Ender 6 Volcano, I want the biggest nozzle size possible. Also bought your Ender 6 LCD kit, but I forgot what the perks are. So Ender 6 Volcano, I haven't perused Thingiverse for a little while. I would imagine that somebody has put out some sort of third-party mount for the Ender 6. Basically, with any printer, you can put any hot end on any printer. The thing is, you need something to mount that hot end to the printer. So your options are, you go on a site like Thingiverse. There's also another one called Yeggi, YEGGI.com. There's also Cults 3D. But what I like about Yeggi is a search aggregator, so it goes out to Thingiverse and Cults and all these other STL sites that host files that people share, and it aggregates them all to one search engine. So if you haven't heard of Yeggi, it's a very nice search engine. Yeah, Tor just said Things. Yeah, Things.com, Thangs. Is that it? Things.com. Yeah, that's another one. So that's another STL site. It's good to see other ones popping up because Thingiverse has a history of running slow, being broken. And if you look on our channel here, at one point, one of their ad networks were compromised and they were displaying literal porn ads. So that was a fun time. But let's see. Let me see. Ender 6. And the Volcano would be an E3D variant of a hot end. So the difference between a Volcano and a V6. A V6 is the hot end style, and it usually has a standard size block. The Volcano is an upgraded block for a V6 style hot end that gives you a longer melt zone. So it's like twice as long versus a shorter one. The thing is, you can usually use V6 mounts with a Volcano hot end. The only caveat is you have to make sure the layer fan duct is moved down. I believe it's like 7 millimeters is the length difference between the standard blocks. So the nozzle tip hangs down about, I think it's 7 millimeters longer. I don't quote me on that, but either way, your V6 mounts can mount a Volcano. You just need to then modify the cooling duct. So like there's mounts in the past that I've used that were only for V6s. I'll take it into something like Mesh Mixer or Fusion, and I'll extend the duct down that distance so it actually is blowing past the nozzle at the correct height. But let's see. I'm just searching Ender 6 E3D to see if anything comes up on Thingiverse. If any of you guys have any recommendations for Ender 6 V6 style mounts, go ahead and post them in the Livestream channel in the Discord. I have that open to the left of the chat on my screen here. So YouTube doesn't usually allow you to post links, but if you join our Discord server and go there, then you can go ahead and I'll see the links there. Let's see. Oh man, I was asking about the KP3S, if anybody had any. I'm going to show this off because this is a nice setup here. Let's see. Where's the, let me switch over, main monitor. Here we go. So, G Fun and Money in our Discord server, he's also a Cult of TH3D member. He posted this. He's got our Easy Flex on there, Easy ABL, and it looks like he's got an E3D hot end on there. Or an E3D V6 style, and it looks like he also changes blower fan. It looks like maybe a 4010 or 4020, and then he's got a Bondtech knockoff there, and he also changed out the LCD. I wonder if he changed this to a different board, or if he still run the stock one, because this looks like one of those BTT TFTs. I see he got the Meanwhile power supply. That's a good upgrade. I've got to swap mine out still. That will get swapped out before this goes in the print farm. We don't like running the stock ones if they're not Meanwhiles. So, but good job on there. That's nice. I mean, the Benchy, that's one of those. Oh, that's like the dead looking one. That's not bad. I can't remember. There's like so many different variations of the Benchies. So, George. Okay, cool. Yeah. I like these little printers. I don't know why. I'm like partial to the tiny little printers for some reason. I don't know. I like them. Like the big ones are fun, but I don't know what it is about the small ones that I like. They just appeal to me. So whenever there's like a new small printer out, I usually jump on it just because I like playing with them. I don't know. It's kind of fun doing just ridiculous mods and a ton of upgrades to a tiny little printer. It's just me. But yeah, we were talking about the Ender 6 and the Volcano. And like I said, like, you know, like the KP3. So I don't know if George downloaded that from somewhere else in terms of the mount to use for that Bondtech type setup. But the main thing is you can shove anything onto any printer. You just have to have the parts to print to mount the item. So your options are you hope somebody else designs something to put it on the printer you have. Or what you do is you design one yourself in Fusion. So if you guys haven't already, Fusion 360 is free. There are limitations, I believe, on like components and stuff, but for what you guys are going to be doing, just playing around as a home user, Fusion 360 is free and it's awesome. And if you are a business, and I believe the revenue cap is $100,000 a year, so if you're making more than $100,000 in revenue, not profit, revenue, it's like $400 a year. So it's pretty fair, especially for what you get with it. That's what we use here. It's affordable, it does the job, and you know, that's what I'm learning on. So highly recommend Fusion 360 if you guys haven't checked that out already. But I'm looking here, I'm actually not seeing much. If I search Ender 6 E3D on Thingiverse, there's not much. I'm going to try searching Ender 6. I'm going to put Ender 6 in quotes, and then see if there's V6. And lo and behold, we do have a couple of, let's see. It's all about using those keywords. To be completely honest, Thingiverse's search sucks. But yeah, it looks like there's not much here. I almost need like one more monitor. Hang on, let me switch my screens around. And let's go here. Let's share my screen with you. So, looks like this guy's got one. This is like a Bondtech style mount. What I'll usually do is I'll download these, and I can actually show you guys a cool little, I can show you a cool add-on I did on my computer here, and I posted it in the, hang on, I can't type and talk at the same time. I posted a links of it in the actual, in our Discord server, but check this out. So there's a couple of different ones, because when I posted this, some other guy said, well, look we've got previews of STL files, and this also has an STL viewer that's super quick as well. So this is Papa's Best STL viewer and Papa's Best thumbnails. So if you just search Papa's Best, let's see, I don't know if he has, yeah, papas-best.com. I'm really liking this because when I have folders full of files, I can just at a glance see what they are. So like I've got, this is our domain controller here. So if I go to our shared folder here, we got like a print farm and a test folder. You can see here, here's all the test files we have. And these are previews of it. If I want to open one, you just pop it open and there you go. You can also change the material type too if you want to do like change what the preview looks like. So it's very basic, but it's very powerful. I really like it. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked that out, there you go. But this looks like this is looking like this is a V6 mount. So you could use the parts aside from the direct drive parts if you wanted to just put a V6 on there, a Volcano. But what I'll usually do is if there's like one that's not in existence that does what I want it to do, I'll try to find something close before I go and redesign everything and modify it. Otherwise, you're going to be modifying. So like, let's show you Yegi. And I'll show you this. So let's see what Yegi comes up with. So Ender 6 V6 mount. Let's see what comes up. Now, Yegi is kind of slow. I'm not even going to lie. I'm wondering if it's because it's hitting all these different sites, and we all know how fast Thingiverse is. I don't know if Hero Me actually supports the Ender 6 yet. I would assume he would eventually add it because he seems to be on top of that, but I don't think he has. I think it's just the Ender 3. Yeah, no, there's no V6 or Ender 6 one. Let's see, did he add anything else? This is Andrew who does all that stuff. So if I'm sorting by newest, I'm not seeing anything here. So I'm wondering if he did. Wonder if he didn't do anything yet for it. So, well, let's see. Ender 6 V6 mount, because that'll get us started. Yeah, I'm surprised there's not many people putting out upgrades for this printer. Maybe I'll have to design it. Maybe it'll be a project for me, is make a V6 style mount for the Ender 6. Or just adapt one even for, like, to make it with the Hero Me. But yeah, you want to go ahead and do that. Let me switch back because that's kind of boring. You don't want to see my dashboard. There's nothing of interest there. But anyways, and then there was a second part of that. I've been talking about the Ender 6 for the last, 10 minutes now? Not sure. But he said, oh yeah, he bought the Ender 6 LCD kit, but forgot what the perks were. Well, the main thing is you get quicker control, like baby stepping, press the button twice while it's printing, and you get the baby stepping, you turn the knob. My favorite parts of having not the touchscreen, or not having the touchscreen, I should say, is you can change your steps per millimeter easily, your acceleration, your jerk, your velocities. You can set your Z offset a lot easier. You just get the full Marlin menus, whereas with the touchscreen, you have a very cut down menu system, and they do this to make them easier. You know, the whole thing with the touchscreen, the whole appeal is that they look nice, and they're easier to use. But the problem is once you start getting more into the weeds in terms of tuning your printer and changing settings, you quickly realize that the LCD is kind of like boxed in terms of functionality. You know, I like comparing it to, you know, Apple iPhones. Like, iPhones are powerful, they do a lot of stuff, they look nice, but when you want to start messing with the settings and you want to start changing things, they kind of box you in where you can't mess with any of that, whereas Android, you get a little more flexibility. That's the kind of comparison I would make. You know, they both work, but if you're more of a power user, the touchscreen you'll quickly outgrow it. So I'm hoping that at some point, someone that's familiar with these screens, they're made by a company called DWin. I would love to see if somebody can make just like a universal firmware for these screens, because they all run on the same chip, that then Marlin can then just take over and draw whatever they want on the screen, or even emulate the 128/64 like they do on like the screen that's in here. This is a touchscreen on this KP3S, but this is actually driven off the processor, and Marlin has support for that, and it emulates the 128/64 screen that has the rotary knob. It works. So, but we don't have that option right now on the DWin screens. Maybe we will later on. You know, I'm not sure, and that's, you know, that level of coding is above my pay grade. I'm very good at taking existing code and modifying it and building on it and simplifying it. I do have some coding background, but in terms of writing that level of complex code from scratch, you know, I could figure it out, but I don't have the time, even if I wanted to. So, will we get a scam caller today? I'm not sure. I'm just scrolling back up because chat jumped. Let's go up here. All right. So Pablo is, I asked your Film Factory's question really quick. We're accepting Dogecoin payment. I am looking into crypto. If anybody has any recommendations on a good plugin and or service for accepting crypto payments with a WooCommerce site, because that's what we use, I am 100% open to adding crypto payments to our website. I have not a ton, but I have crypto myself that I'm holding just as a long-term investment. But I would love to be able to do that. We would probably end up converting it to USD just because of the business, depending on like the volume and how volatile some of the cryptos can be. But I would love to be able to accept it. So if anybody has recommendations on a plugin to accept those type of payments on a WooCommerce site, go ahead and send them to me on our Discord server, or even through our contact form. I'm absolutely open for that. So let me get to the next question, which is Pablo. He said, hi, I've got an Ender 3 Max and I'm not being able to correctly calibrate the H bridge. The eccentric nuts are constantly loosening, and when I raise the extruder high up, I feel loose, but when I lower it near the bed, it is more rigid. I'm assuming are you talking about the Z gantry? So like your two Z upright extrusions, and then there's the one across the top. I think that's what you're talking about. So I'm gonna start talking as to what that is, because it sounds like what you're saying is the eccentrics on there, because on the Ender 3 Max, you'll have the two eccentrics. You'll have one on the left and one on the right, and they're on the inner side of the rails. I have my Ender 3 Max back here. And what it sounds like he's saying is when he raises the whole X gantry up, that it's loose. And what that tells me is if you don't have the same stiffness or alignment would probably be the correct word, all the way from the top to the bottom when you're moving your gantry, your X gantry up and down, that tells me that your uprights are either not cut square at the bottom, or they're not actually screwed together correctly. So what I'll usually do is when I assemble a machine that's like that, where it's got the two uprights with the bar across the top, I'll loosen the bolts at the top, run the gantry all the way up to the top, and then tighten them down. Then what I'll do is also leave the bottom ones that hold those uprights in place. I'll loosen those up, bring the gantry all the way back down, and then tighten them back up. And what that's going to do is use the gantry itself to help align the distance between the two uprights at the top and the bottom position. Then hopefully, if your extrusion's straight, you'll have the same amount of tension or alignment. Everything will be aligned from top to bottom then. If you are noticing, and this is applicable to like the Ender 3, the CR10, any kind of printer that's got that X gantry that rides up and down those two uprights, if you have unequal amount of tension on your wheels at the top and the bottom, that usually means that the uprights are not aligned. Now, I have not seen instances where the extrusion isn't cut correctly. Now, it's not impossible, but I've built a lot of machines and I haven't come across that. So what you could do is, if you got a square, take a square to the end of the extrusion and make sure it's actually cut flat. If it's not, then I would take it and grind it down so that it is flat. Now, you will probably have to then also grind down the other side because you don't want one being longer than the other. But I haven't encountered that. They're usually pretty good about cutting those to be actually flat. It's usually more going to be an issue with how it was actually built, like the actual machine was built. And since, you know, you're the one putting it together, that means you didn't put it together correctly. There's a YouTube channel called The Edge of Tech. Jim is the guy who runs that. He's an awesome guy. He has an Ender 3 performance assembly guide series where he goes over building the gantry correctly and fixing all these common issues. Highly recommend watching that because that also applies to the CR10, the Ender 3 Max, even the CR6, the Ender 3 V2, all the printers that have that same kind of design style. Those same methodologies and fixes that he shows in those videos can be applied to those machines as well. So, let's see. Doc Brown, no interference with easy ABL from the stepper motor. No, this will be fine. We do have shielded wires on here. And just to further mitigate any potential interference with the stepper motor, when we do the calibration, I turn the motor off, the E-motor. And then in our starting code, if you're using our easy ABL starting code, we actually have it shut the E-motor off automatically when it's doing the probing. So while it'll probably work fine, even if the motor's engaged, the goal is to try to mitigate as much interference as possible so we get the best reading there is. Another thing our firmware does too is we'll actually cycle the heaters on and off too, and this is just across the board with all the printers, to mitigate even further any issues. So if you're using, and this is really important with BL Touch probes because they have those thin wires that are really long, they're not shielded. You want to try to reduce as much interference while you're probing with a probe in general, just so you get the best reading possible. So let's see. Frank is asking, would a Crowley 427 board work on a Tronxy Pro 400 with Marlin installed? I like the bigger size printer. Yeah, you could use it. You would have to download Marlin, just regular old Marlin from marlinfw.org, and then set up that printer. You're probably, I believe those X5SA, their model number is just insane. They're pretty complicated. They keep reusing the same ones. Creality does the same stuff. But I would say if you swap this, if you use a screen that works with the 427 board, so like the Creality 12864, and you know how to set up the firmware, you absolutely could use that board in on a Tronxy build as long as you set everything up. The 427 boards are good budget boards. They're not perfect. I wish they had UART control over the drivers, but, we've been selling those for about 5 or 6 months now. And, we have yet to have, knock on wood, yet to have a single one come back defective. So they're, they get the job done. They're cheap and they get the job done. But yeah, you can take, in general, just remember, you guys can take any printer board and put it in any printer as long as it's got enough motor outputs and thermistor inputs and heater outputs. The difference is the software and knowing how to set up the software. If you're looking for a nicer board that's got more features, we actually carry the MKS S Gen L boards now, and we have those in stock ready to ship, along with 2209 driver sets. I actually have, this is the one. Oh no, no! This is the one I use for product photos, and I'm going to end up putting this into a build. I haven't decided what I'm putting this into yet. But we have the boards and the drivers, and they go along with them. And this is only a little bit more than the 427 board, but this is a universal control board. You can put this in any machine. They're a really good budget control board, and we have these in stock ready to ship, and the drivers are replaceable. So we have the TMC 2209s that MKS makes to go with these. They just plug right in, just like this. And what I like about these is they're actually keyed, so you know which way they can go in. On older boards, you could actually put these in wrong and fry them. Like you could put them in backwards and fry them. So, but I have this board in one of my other machines in here. I have the version 1 of this board in another machine, and they've been running great. And we do carry these now. So this is like the budget universal board option that we carry. We also carry the 427 boards from Creality, and we do have our easy board, but due to the silicon issue, we still don't have stock on those. We got 100 of them in, and they sold out in about a week and a half. And I don't know when our next shipment will be because we haven't been able to actually get processors. So my opinion, whether you get the MKS board from us or the Creality board from us, I would, if you were going to be putting that much work into it, I would go with the MKS board over the Creality board, just because that one's going to give you more features and more upgradability down the road versus the Creality. If you're going to go through the trouble of swapping the board out and doing a custom setup, I would just go with the MKS over the Creality one. So, Jay's asking, how do I program my mono-price Maker Select Plus to accommodate the dye cooler fan on ADVi3++? I have not touched ADVi3++ in a while, and I don't have that printer anymore. But ADVi3++ is a flavor of Marlin that also comes with an LCD to go along with that, because they've rewritten the DWin firmware for that LCD. But it should be the same process. You should be able to just enter in. Well, actually, if you're just changing the cooler out and you're not doing like an ABL probe mount, you shouldn't need to make any firmware changes for that. But if you're like using an auto bed leveling probe like a BL Touch or an Easy ABL on that printer, then you would need to put your sensor offsets in. But ADVi3++ is based on Marlin. I believe they have a 2.0 based Marlin version. I haven't messed with it because I don't have that printer anymore. And they're not a very popular model, so I haven't spent much more time with them. So our firmware that we have out for the i3 Plus, because that monoprice Maker Select Plus is a rebrand Wanhao i3 Plus. We have one that's based on Marlin 119 with the ADV i3++ code, and that's set up for an Easy ABL for bed leveling. But if you're using like a BL Touch or even our Easy ABL, the i3++ stuff is directly from them, is a lot more updated than what we have. So just because we haven't put any more time into that printer, just because it's such an old model and it's not a very common one, it's just not worth the time to keep doing stuff with it, because it's kind of a pain to deal with because of that screen. Every single stream, Easy Board Pro status. I need chips. That's why we don't have any easy boards. This silicon shortage is killing us right now. Jonathan's asking, where's the puppy? He is passed out. I don't know if do I have that? Hang on. Transform, reset, transform. There we go. You can see him. He's right there, passed out. I can go ahead and close that. But anyways, let's see. Jonathan Bayer also got some of the Edsel shells that I think, is it Edsel? Yeah, I think it's Edsel. The ones I have over here. I love them. He said he likes them. Awesome. Yeah, you can't beat them for the price. Under $100 to throw your printers on. They're probably, they might be more now. Everything is more expensive these days. Yay, inflation and all this other shit. Let's see. Let's go back through the chat here. Okay, we're back here. Dan Adams, blue raspberry today. Yes, I am drinking the blue raspberry from Ma. What do they call it? They have like, they're not called blue raspberry. Blue buzz. Blue buzz. I think that's Tor's favorite one is the blue buzz. So, let's see here. So Stephen Goodman, he's got an easy board in his Ender 3 Max. He said, now one of the part cooling fans come along with a hot end fan. The second part cooling fan is off and can be adjusted by fan speed. It sounds like you have something connected wrong. You should have both those fans, because the Ender 3 Max has two fans. Yeah, it's got the two fans. Those both should go into the fan header 1. So you're going to need to splice those into the same output. The fan 1 is the layer fan on the easy board. Fan 2 is the control box fan. So the fan that actually cools the motherboard, that should be on fan 2. You could also just wire that fan directly to the always on fan output. But yeah, you would want to connect them both to fan 1. I'm wondering if I could do a firmware update where it would take the second fan output that would be for the control board fan. I don't know if I can tell Marlon use two like parallel fan pins. I'd have to look into that. But when I put the easy board on Ender 3 Max, I'm just going to cut the ends, leave a couple inches on one of the plugs and splice both fans into the one plug. I haven't looked at that printer a little bit. I can't remember if Creality's got two separate plugs on it. I think they have two separate plugs, one for each hot end fan, which is weird. No, hang on. Let me look at it. Okay, yeah. So they have two separate fan runs. Basically, you just want to splice those together into one. Since those both have the 2-pin plugs, just snip one of them, leave a couple inches of wire on the plug, and then just wire them parallel, tape them up, heat shrink them, solder them, whatever you got, and then that will go into fan 1 on the easy board. So, like I said, fan 2 is a controlled fan output that comes on when you have any heaters on, when you have any stepper motors on. That's meant to cool the control board. So, I'm seeing if he had any other things he added. Let's see. Anyways, Victor Riviera says, I have a problem with my hot end. Starts printing fine. About 20 minutes into the print, it stops feeding and the print kaputs. So my question would be, is your extruder still turning? Or is extruder stopping turning? Because there's two different issues. If the extruder's still turning, and the filament's not coming out, it sounds like you got a hot end jam, or a clog. It could even be a PTFE tube issue where there's a void between the PTFE tube and let me grab my hot end diagram. Look at how handy these are. So this is a Creality hot end, okay? This is a cutaway. This is a side view. So you got your heat break, your nozzle, and your PTFE tube, okay? So, and then at the top here, you have a fitting. So what happens sometimes is this tube will back out, and you'll get a gap between your nozzle and the tubing, and this will cause jams. So you want to make sure that your tube is all the way fully seated against the back of the nozzle. If it's not, you're going to have problems. So, yeah, would highly recommend that. Recommend checking that. But if your extruder is not feeding, check the grub screw on the feed gear to make sure that didn't loosen up. That's a simple thing. I've had that happen a couple times. But if the motor's not turning at all, it could be a driver issue. It could also be a bad cable going between your motor and the control board. But I'm going to see, I didn't see any further feedback, so I'm going to move to the next question. We'll circle back with that one. If Victor's still here in the chat. So, Nicholas Hansen, any idea what the stepper 6-pin connectors are called? They're a JST type. I'm trying to think. I think it's the ones that go to the board are typically the JST XH series. I want to say the ones going to the stepper motor are the PH. series. Yeah, it's a PH series. So it's a JST PH 2.0. So if you look up like JSTH or JST PH 6-pin, you'll get those style connectors. So here, I did a quick search here, and you can see JST PH 6-pin, and there we go. We've got the, I believe those are the ones. They look like it. They look damn similar. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're the JST PH. Someone else can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is what these stepper motors use, is the PH series. Yeah, I'm like 99.9% sure it's a PH series. So hopefully that's correct. Yeah, because the XH are the slightly larger ones. Those are, the XH are 2.54 millimeter pin size. The PH are 2.0 millimeter, so it's slightly smaller connector. Max CJ is asking, did I get my VoxLab Aquila? Yeah, it's right here. I got to schedule it. It's on my list. You guys can't read it, but that's I've got a list of all the printers that are in boxes that I got to do a stream on. That's one of them. Let's see. Elliot K, do I have any Prusa accessories? No, we don't really have anything for the Prusas. We haven't ventured into that market. Our market's more of the Chinese printers. I'd highly recommend checking out Printed Solid. They do carry a lot of Prusa accessories. PrintedSolid.com. The guy Dave is the one who owns that over there, and they're based out of Delaware. They're good people over there, and they carry a lot of stuff. I know he was carrying a lot of Prusa parts. I'm going to go to his site. I'm pretty sure because he was telling me he was getting them. Yeah, he does carry Prusa parts. So, like, he's got thermistors and stuff. You just go there and search for Prusa specific hardware. He's got a whole section there. You can see here he's got all sorts of stuff for Prusas. If you just go to shop and there's Prusa specific hardware, he's got a couple pages worth of stuff just for Prusas. So, yeah, check them out. I don't have plans on doing stuff for Prusas. I'd rather just be like, hey, check this other company out. Printed Solid's been around for a while, and they're good people. So, let's see here. Dan Adams, I guess this is just a shout out here. This is kind of cool. He said he knows we use Octofarm. We do. We still use that. He said there's a really easy way of setting out on an old computer. There's apparently an image called Octobuntu that is an image of Ubuntu with Octofarm pre-set up. Let me Google that. Octobuntu. There's a video. Let me see here. Guy named Paul. That's got Octoprint. I don't know. Is this? Oh, this guy's sharing. This is on a Nextcloud server. I also use Nextcloud. Octobuntu. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. We're running Octofarm now in a Docker container. I want to say I had it on a Windows computer and I did a video on that. But we switched over to Docker on one of the updates that we did. So I'm a big fan of Docker. Docker is awesome. Elliot joined the cult of TH3D2. Yes, join us. Join us. Dominic's also part of the caffeine fund now. We haven't hit the membership goal on here, but I am meeting with somebody tomorrow to go over someone to help me out with video scripts and stuff. So it's going to be happening. I can justify at least someone part-time to help us out with this stuff if the channel's bringing in a little more revenue. Let's see here. I'm going back to the chat here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Oh, people want my cube. It is in the VIP section of our Discord server. I posted that yesterday. I thought I did. Did you guys not see that? Yeah, I posted the 20mm TH3D calibration cube. It's in there. So if you're in the VIP section, it's in. I think it's in the Real Talk channel. I posted it yesterday. Dominic Versetto, have you looked at the CR10 Smart? I did look at it. I don't have one. I'm just curious, would you guys be comfortable hooking a Creality printer with network connectivity and their software that reports back to their systems on your home network? Me personally, I would not do that. And I'm actually kind of glad you brought that up, because there's a couple of things with this. It's a neat idea. Problem is, my concern, it's a Chinese printer company. And it's Chinese software, and I doubt they're going to open source it. So you don't really know what's going on under the hood. I've had like security cameras and stuff that have phoned home to China. I've had times where before I isolated my security cameras from the internet, meaning they were on my network, but had, let me back up a sec. All my cameras right now I have a mixture of security cameras. Most of them are made in China. None of them have access to the internet. They're on a completely separate VLAN, and they cannot talk to the internet. And I did this because I've had security cameras in the past. They're just some random ones I bought off Amazon, like $20, $30 ones, and literally watched and captured packets as a guy from China was in the camera using a telnet session and sending commands to scan the network. You got to remember, these devices are computers. They run a full, well, not like full, but they run Linux usually. And it's a full computer. So if there's a security issue, or someone at the company, or it's compromised, you literally have a device that you don't have full control over on your private network. And that's concerning for me. I'm all about local control. I try to get as much stuff as I can, especially for network connected devices, especially smart home type stuff. I would put printers in a class when you're hooking up with Octoprint. It's kind of a smart home device. I want it open source and I want it local. I will not trust anything like this. Like, this is basically Creality took their touchscreen and their little Wi-Fi box that was a complete flop and then pushed it into a printer. The other issue with this is a printer like this. It looks great, and I'll do a screen share. It looks nice. It looks very professional. But they're moving, if they keep making machines like this, they're more moving towards this closed design and ecosystem where, and you can see there's no cables. It's probably just a render. I'm assuming they're going to use a ribbon cable like they did on the CR6. I believe this is a similar auto leveling setup as a CR6, where it's that like little pressure thing, because you don't see a probe on here, and it says it's I think it said intelligent leveling V2. Yeah, is the same with CR6. It's the same thing. If you're someone that likes to tinker with your printer, a machine like this is not going to be fun for you, because it's designed to use it as it sits, and it's not super friendly to people who like modding stuff. So now there is a market towards that, where people just want something that they're going to use it stock. But if they start moving towards this, they're going to lose a lot of the DIY people. So, and that's just my opinion. So I think the reason Creality is where they are is because their printers are so modifiable. They're, not hard to do modifications and upgrades to. So if they start getting away from that and moving more towards stuff that's harder to upgrade and it's more proprietary, they're going to lose a lot of their loyal customers. So, but yeah. Let's see here. Next one, Andrew Hummer. How are the MKS Robin V2 and Robin Nano V2 boards? Can I use the BTT 2209s on it? The Nano boards are okay. I'm not a huge fan of their Nano boards. I do like their Gen L series, which was their older 8-bit ones. That was replaced with the S Gen L, which is what we started carrying. The Nanos are, you get what you pay for. I have noticed a higher failure rate with their Nano series. Not me personally, but just other people having them fail on them at random. They don't seem to be as well built as the S Gen L series. They're a bottom of the barrel cost cut board. Now, if I had to choose between a Big Tree Text board and a Robin board, I'm probably going to go with the Robin board. The Kingerin printers use a Robin board. They're not super complicated. They're not packed with that many features, but they do work, and I haven't had one fail on me yet. I would recommend sticking with, you could probably throw Big Tree Text 2209s on that board, but I would highly recommend probably going with the MKS ones. I've had just weird results with the Big Tree Tech 2209s. It's originally what I had was Big Tree Tech 2209s with their 1.4 turbo board in my AM8 printer here, and now that's got the MKS drivers and board in it. I just had too many issues with the VREFs were, even though they were set to like 600 milliamps, were making the motors just completely way too hot for comfort. They were acting weird, and since I switched, I haven't had any issues. So, yeah. So, but I mean, give it a shot. Give the Robin Nano a shot. I've not seen a lot of good luck with those. But who knows? Maybe it was the people killing them. But I have the King Room printers here with the MKS Robin series boards, and they've been running fine. So, and like I said, if I had to go with a Big Tree Tech board or MKS Robin, I'm going with the Robin. If we're talking like really cheap boards. So MKS typically does a pretty good job. You don't see them coming out with a million new boards every month. They tend to make a couple and they stick with those and they run them for a longer production run. I would like to think they do better QC on their stuff, because we sold the MKS Gen L boards, I think out of like 400 that we sold, we had 2 that were DOA. That's pretty damn good for a low-cost Chinese board. T-Spark is asking, looking at getting a bigger printer, minimum of 300 by 300 by 300. What's the best bang for buck? Something like a CR10 and add some mods, or would I get more if I built from scratch? Sadly, it's usually more expensive to build from scratch. You might get slightly better quality depending on what you buy. I would say if you're in the 300 by 300 by 300 size, I would just go with a CR10. There's a ton of parts for them. There's a ton of printed upgrades for them. We carry a ton of stuff for them. I don't think you can go wrong with the CR10. The CR10 V2 and the V3 are decent, but if you're going to want to be changing the board out, you're going to want to be doing other upgrades. The CR10 original, like the CR10S, definitely get a CR10S, not the one with the single Z-stepper, but I don't even think they make the single one, which was the CR10. I would definitely look at the CR10S. You can find those pretty cheap now, and if you've already got a printer, meaning you can print parts, see if you can find one used. There's I've seen CR10S machines popping up used for like $200. So, and that's a hell of a steal. Even if, let's say, the board's fried, but everything else is good. $200 for basically a printer minus a board. You put a new board in there, it's pretty solid buy. Scarbang, do we sell stepper motors for a Sunlow S8? So we don't carry machine-specific stepper motors because all these machines use the same NEMA 17 style motors. We carry 2 different styles of motors. I believe we're out of stock on the smaller ones, but we have a standard size and a pancake size. Pancake is the thin ones usually used with geared extruders, and the standard ones are what you'll see on any of these. So like the stepper motors we carry, I can literally put on here and replace this motor or the Y motor or the Z motor. You just got to make sure you have the right length, and we do have the lengths listed for our motors. So the only thing you might have to do, it depends on how your stock cabling is wired. So they all use the same 6-pin plugs. The difference is that sometimes, depending on the motor manufacturers, like to change what pins their coils are on. So you might have to move like your 2 center pins. Usually, in my experience, you sometimes have to swap these 2 center pins, and that's it. And you'll know if you need to or not, because if you plug the motor in, it just shakes, then you know that the coils were not properly set up. And all you need to do is all you usually need to do is swap those 2 center pins, and then the motor will start turning. So, and let's say you swap those 2 pins, and the motor turns, but it's going the wrong direction in your firmware. You can either reverse it in firmware, or what I'll usually do, just so I don't have to remember to reverse that axis in firmware, is if you take all 4 pins out, okay? So let's say my fingers are the 4 pins. You take the 4 pins out, go like this, and then put them back in. That will reverse the direction of your motor. And you can do that. I'm sure I have a stepper cable here. Yes. So, and you do this at the board side. So here's a stepper motor, a little shorty cable. And you see we got 4 wires going into here. So if you take a little flathead and gently press on these pins while pulling, these will come out. So if you take these 4 wires out, flip them around, and reinsert them back into the pin. So you're basically taking pin 1 and 4 and swapping them, and then 2 and 3 and swapping them, that will also change the direction of the motor. So, don't know if you guys knew that, but you can do that. So, yeah. All right, let's see. Let's keep going. Man, we're almost an hour in. I might not have time to play with the KP3. Would you guys be interested in, I don't know if it'd be tonight, but if I did just a video with the KP3 where we hang out and work on stuff? Would you guys pop in? Let's see here. What voltage is Ender 6? 24. 24 volts is what the Ender 6 runs on. Frank says, oh, Frank was asking about the 427 with a Tronxy. He's got a spare 427. It's up to you. If you've got the extra money, I personally would put the time into putting the MKS in it. But if you're on a tight budget, I totally get it. So, let's see here. Oh, George Moody has the MKS. He's got, he said he's got this in his KP3S. Actually, I think that board would fit in there because the stock board's actually quite large. The KP3S it's technically an MKS Robin. They call them, like, there's a Nano and the Mini. They're all kind of the same series. But it's about the same size as the MKS Gen L. But in the KP3S, it's actually branded Kingra. Like I said before, MKS does a lot of OEMing for companies. So, like, they make boards for other companies, and they may not have the MKS brand on them. But you can usually kind of tell. Like I said, when I was going over the JG Maker Magic, I'm pretty sure that board's made by MKS just by, like, the color selection of the parts, the style of the silk screen, the board layout. It really looks like stuff that, like, work that MKS does. So, and like I said, MKS, if I'm going with a cheap Chinese board, I'm usually going with the MKS stuff. So, let me see here. Mike V, how do I connect LEDs to the Easy Light board? We don't have a dedicated LED pinout on the Easy board, but if you know what you're doing with Marlin, you could use, let's say you're not using a filament sensor, or you're not using, let me go to my other camera here. Let's say you're not using a filament sensor, or you're not using the BL Touch. You could use the signal pins. So you see on their fill sensor, it says SIG, and there's also one on servo. You could use those pins to control it. Now, do not power LEDs from the 5-volt and ground on here, because you will trip the fuse here. You would need to supply your own voltage for the LEDs. But if you're trying to drive something like a NeoPixel, you could use these spare signal pins. There's one there and one there to drive those. We do have a couple I/O pins on the serial header, but I don't have those pins documented. There's TX and RX pins on here. We do have some stuff we're working on that will add some lighting stuff to the Easy board. I'm just waiting on production to finish, so won't divulge too many details, but we will have a nice plug-and-play set for lighting for your Easy board. And some other boards too. So just wait on stuff. Everything's delayed. It sucks. So, but yeah, if you're running like something like NeoPixels, I don't have any floating around here, like the strip LEDs. You just need one data pin, and you could use like the servo pin, the servo signal pin, or the filament sensor signal pin if you're not using either of those. Like if you're using a BL Touch, or if you're not using a BL Touch and using Easy ABL, then you have that I/O pin on the servo header free. And you could define that as your NeoPixel pin and just give the board power, or give your LEDs power from either like a step-down converter. Most NeoPixels run off of 5 volts, so you can do like a step-down converter. Just pulling up, let you know what the pin number is on the servo header. I'm just drilling down in our files here, because you can tell at what pin the pixels are running on. So P2_04, that's the servo header pin. I thought I had something set for NeoPixels, but I'm not seeing it in here. But yeah, so anyways, yeah, the giveaway form is open and live. If you're not able to see it, you can just clear your browser cache. So, Mithrin said, discovered the other day the Ender 6 definitely does not get good results using super fast probing. Yes, it doesn't. Just because of how the bed is, I run the standard probing speed on my Ender 6. If you watch the stream, I had super fast on, and it was erroring out. As soon as I turn it off, everything's been great, and it's been running great, actually. I'm using that printer a lot. It's got a print on it right now for the King Rune. All right, let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to have time to play with the King Rune. I'm sorry. I did not realize it's actually been going quite fast today. We're already at 3 o'clock. I try to keep these streams around an hour, and we've been going for about an hour and 5. If we take away the queue time, we're still over an hour. So, let me get through a couple more regular questions, and I'll check any of our YouTube members, and I'll answer their questions before we wrap up. Let's see here. Okay, so Kegoth says, hey Tim and Chad, I put the Hero Me Gen 5 on my Ender 3 Pro with dual 50/20s. I think that's a fan size. I don't know if you meant 50/15s. I uncommented the silent PWM setting on the latest Marlin bug fix, but the fans make a chattering noise. I don't know what fans you're using. I'm not a big fan of putting the capacitor across the, like some people put a little like a low capacity electrolytic capacitor to kind of smooth it out. Some fans just don't like a PWM signal. I think in Marlin you can also define what the lowest PWM frequency is, to make it so even if you're at like 1%, it's actually at 10, if that's where the fans don't go. Some fans just don't like to be switched with PWM. A lot of, like, some of the more like industrial grade fans, they'll have an auto restart function where if it gets like stuck, it'll respin back up, and that usually interferes with PWM control. So I would say check that, one, the PWM setting and the fan setting for that. It sounds like you're using regular Marlin, but we do have a feature coded into our firmware called Fan Fix. And I'm just trying to remember what that sets in the back end so I can let you know the configuration, because maybe you also just have it set wrong. I'm checking here. So what I found works with fans that don't like being controlled with the standard PWM is you set the value called soft PWM scale, so soft underscore PWM underscore scale to 1, and then you also add a define fan underscore soft underscore PWM. And I found that works for most fans that don't like being controlled with the normal PWM control that Marlin has. If that doesn't work, then I would probably just try doing like a 100 UF 35 volt cap across the two. The only problem with that is you might then just not get any fan control. That's the problem with putting a capacitor across it. It might smooth it out, but that capacitor might also be holding too much current or too much capacity, and then you're just basically getting full speed to the fans anyways. So, or switch out to fans that do properly work with fan speed control. We have our own brand of 50/15 fans. They're dual ball bearing fans, and they 100% work with the standard Marlin fan speed control. Those are our version 2 of the 50/15 fans. The version 1s were made by another company, and those needed the fan fix option because they had an auto restart function. So when we went and refreshed our fan lineup, we made sure to get fans made without the auto restart because it doesn't work correctly with Marlin's PWM fan control. Kyle Fegley's asking, what all-in-one do you recommend for getting rid of the control box for a CR10S? There's one that my brother Doug, Top at Waffle, made, and he's got one on Thingiverse. I don't know what he calls it, but I can't remember if he called it all-in-one, but he has one, and I've seen a lot of people do it. I have not done it to mine. I did a control box delete, but I did it before people were like printing parts. I literally have my CR10 mounted on a board, and it's heavily modified. I think you could only just call it's a CR10 frame at this point. There's not much Creality stuff left on it. Justin is asking on the CR10S, which belt-driven dual Z kit do you recommend? I'm trying to keep my X gantry level. I don't have a belt-driven kit recommended. I ended up just figuring out what length of closed loop belt I needed. My CR10S has 2 motors, and I just added 2 8mm diameter pulleys. They're 20-tooth 8mm diameter pulleys, and I put a closed loop belt across the top. I don't have the... I can look and see. I'll post it in the Cult of TH3D later, Justin, because I know you're in there. I can't remember what length the belt was. Sometimes it's printed on there. Otherwise, I'll have to go dig through my receipts and figure out when I did it. So, like I said, we're getting towards the end. I just want to make sure I get through our YouTube member questions here. I'm scrolling through to see if there's any. And I'll see if there's any... see if there's any other quick questions I can ask before we wrap these up, because we want to keep this at an hour and we're already over. So, Sarai, what do I think about the KP3S? I think it's a good value for the money. There are some, like I said, some people had issues with the barrel plug burning up because of the current going through it. Other people haven't. There's a video where we actually added a MOSFET to divert power from the bed over the MOSFET. That's what I did to mine. But yeah, let's see. Let's see if there's any other quick questions before we wrap this up. Like I said, I want people to actually watch these, and if you go more than an hour, the YouTube viewership just tapers off. So I also have a lot of work to do. When am I getting a CR200B? Whenever you send me one. I have not looked into buying one of those. I wasn't really planning on it. They're just kind of meh. I've got enough enclosed machines, and that's one of those other ones where it's more like you use it stock. You don't modify it. And I like modifying the printers, whether it's for fun or additional features or both. The CR200B is one of those machines where it's like you use it stock. Let's see. I think that'll wrap it up. Is giveaway form working? Yes, it is. I think if I do give away, does that... I can't remember if I set that up or not. Did I set it up? Nightbot. Is Nightbot listening? If not, I'm going to have to set that up. I did not. I'll have to set that up, so exclamation point giveaway. You know what? I thought I did. Hang on. Commands. Custom. Oh, I guess not. Oops. I'll have to do that. So I'll add that as a command. So if anybody's asking, but it's giveaway.th3dstudio.com. I think I have a button here that plugs it on my Stream Deck. So there we go. All right. So if you guys want to continue chatting offline, you can find me in our Discord server at discord.th3dstudio.com. I appreciate everybody that stopped by. We do these streams every Monday and Wednesday. Mondays are at 4 p.m. Central Time, and Wednesdays are at 2 p.m. Central Time. I will answer No Brain, Ender 5 Plus, or Creality CR10S V3. Me personally, I go with the Ender 5 Plus. I have an Ender 5 Plus. I love it. So, anyways, I will talk to you guys later. I appreciate everybody stopping by. I hope you guys learned something. I'll see you on Discord. And as always, happy printing.